Hello and welcome to another video. In preparation to the 1.0 launch, I have updated my leveling guide for the Huntress. As there's been a lot of balancing changes through the years, but let's go slowly over everything that you need to know from going from zero to a hero in this game. And before we start, I want to praise the game and the developers for actually bringing out a game that actually feels great to play right off the bat. I feel like other action RPGs actually does a weak job when it comes to the start, because you feel kind of weak and slow. But in this game, I feel like you have a lot of movement already right off the bat, and it feels great. Everything to controls, the combat, the fluidity of the game feels absolutely phenomenal. And I personally love how skills feel. Some feel light, whereas others feel very heavy and strong. For example, ability like heavy explosive projectile. That's one of my favorite abilities in the game. And it actually pushes you a bit back when you shoot it. And it feels, oof, it's very strong and powerful. I love it. And a lot of other abilities does the same. So, but enough about the praise, let's get into it. The great thing about this game is that you can respec on the run. And that goes for the skills. It goes from the attributes, as well as the ancestral tree. You can do whatever you want. You can respec on the run. You can do it during combat. You can do it in town or wherever you are. This is very handy for you that want to actually experiment with your character and try out different things. So I can highly recommend, if you don't want to follow my guide and just do your own thing, you can just do whatever you want, essentially. An important thing to note when you start this game is that you gotta change your gear consistently or regularly, because the higher the item level or the item, the higher the stats can be. I have a good example right here. So my cape is reinforcement 0. It has 6% movement speed and 281 life. And both of these mods are maximum rolled. And then I have another cape right here, which has a 10% movement speed, and the defense modifier is 433 maximum life. So it makes a huge difference on your character power depending on the item level. And this goes all the way up to level 100. I think the percentages has a cap. I'm not sure what that cap is. But everything that is considered a flat stat, like let's say maximum flat life, that can go well and beyond what it is right now at level 100, for example. So it scales like way higher than this right here. I think it goes up to 1,000 or something. I'm not sure. But it has a very big impact on your character. And this goes for every other stat, like let's say flat raw damage. If you get like, let's say you have an item level 10 item with raw damage, and then you find another item that is item level 20, the raw stat potential is much higher compared to the level 10 one. So keep that in mind when you play this game. There's a lot of upgrades you can do. The starter weapon in this game is actually pretty good, so I can actually just recommend using that until the end game. So using this Reaper through Act 1 to 5 is actually very good. Like, you do not have to change your Reaper. But if you want to experiment a bit, you can always take another one, because you have a Slorm Reaper mastery, and through this, depending on how high it is, your other Reapers get a flat amount of damage through that. As you can see, this Reaper right here is a level 1, but it gets 84 mastery level. So it actually gets a lot of flat damage, but it doesn't get its own modifiers increased unless you level it up. So it still starts at level 1, but it has a higher base value of Reaper damage, which is great, and makes it easier for you to actually experiment with other Reapers and get through the game. While leveling, you're finding a lot of white items as well as green items. Both can be pretty good, and the stuff that I can recommend you go after in the start of the game is mana regen, life regen, raw damage, attack speed, and movement speed. Those 5 stats are great and actually improves your character quite a lot. Mana, just because you can sustain your abilities and keep them up at all times. Life regen, you don't have anything in the start of the game with recovery except for the one ring that you gain from a character, I can't remember his name. And then raw damage is just to improve your overall damage. Attack speed is for the animation speed, and movement speed is to get through the campaign even faster if you want to do that. You don't have to get movement speed, and if you don't find anything with movement speed, you can always go up in bravery, which grants 0.5% movement speed per point. As for attributes, I can recommend going up in 10 points in savagery to begin with. This grants you 10% raw damage as well as 25% Reaper damage multiplier. So that scales your overall damage on the Reaper itself, and the raw damage is what you get from leveling up as well as getting it on gear. The next step, I would probably recommend either Fury or Bravery. Bravery makes you able to move way faster, which is great. And 10 points into Fury means that you get a 10% crit chance at 5 and then 10. In a total of 10% crit chance, you get 4 and 6%. And then spend a bit into Bravery to make your experience a bit faster. It feels great, feels snappy, I like it. And then I could highly recommend just going straight up in Savagery. This gives you a lot more raw damage and that scales your character very well later in the game. When you get to level 10, you unlock your specializations. And from what I want to pick and recommend to start out with is going to be Architect of Death. The reason why is because you can place a totem that does a lot of damage for you, as well as it staying up and doing consistent damage to the enemies. And that's not all. You can stack a lot of totems as long as you have enough cooldown recovery. And the first points we go into is Grapeshot. Very nice to start out with. Next is Atomic Might. And the reason why I don't take Heavy Ballista is because of the mana cost. It can get pretty high if we take many points into that. And Totem Effect is essentially just increased damage as well as totem duration. As you can see, it's 15 seconds right now. And when I go up in it, it gets up to like 20 seconds instead of 15 seconds. Very powerful stat. Next row is not very important, but Totems of Renewal is great because you can get a bit more maximum life. Makes you a bit more tanky. Tier 4 is not very important. You can just skip that if you want to. But the next one in Tier 5 is going to be Arrows of Torment. That grants you a 100% chance to pierce everything, and that is very, very powerful. It makes your clear speed way higher, and you can deal with many more enemies at the same time. But most importantly, it's going to be Delightful Syndrome. Delightful Syndrome makes you able to spam your ability way more, but there's a twist to it. You have to stay at a positive level, which is the green stat you have at the down left, as you can see on my character. This makes it able to have a 84% cooldown recovery, so the ability actually gets down to like 2 seconds cooldown. And that means you can stack up a lot of single target damage on everything. And I also want you to keep in mind that you gotta spam the ability, like the totem ability, because that's how you level up your skills. You gotta spam them in combat, and when you spam them in combat, they get mastery levels. The first boss you will encounter in this game is the Necromancer, and the Necromancer is going to be quite easy as for the first boss, and the Ballista is doing a very great job at dealing it down to 0 HP in no time, and this is even without the Arrows of Torment, where you get 100% chance to pierce, as well as the Delightful Syndrome with the massive amount of cooldown. So even though we don't have that to begin with, we still do quite a lot of damage. After defeating the first boss as well, you gain 2 of these Ancestral stones, and I can recommend doing the air conditioner as the first node, and then the second node with the raw booster. Raw booster is just more damage. It gives you a flat amount of raw damage as well as some percentage raw damage. Don't spend all your slom on it, because it can be quite expensive, as you can see right here. 24,000, you will not have that much in the beginning. And the same goes for the air conditioner. Just keep the air conditioner at a relatively low level. Level 1, level 2 is great. You don't really need to over-invest into it. It's a defensive aura that slows enemies' attack speed down. But as of right now, you should focus on taking the raw boost compared to the air conditioner. The Guardian of the Nest and the Nest Mother are the first scary boss in my opinion. And if you get hit by the webs from the spider, you can get immobilized and have a higher chance of dying. So stay on your feet and don't get hit by it. In Act 2 you meet Friedrich, and with this guy you can actually craft your items through using some crafting material called normal slormline, magic, rare, epic and legendary. In the beginning you will only be able to use normal and magic, but that's quite enough to do stuff like this. For example, taking this item right here, and if you have enough normal ones, you can change the stats on your gear to, let's say, I'd rather want the flat raw damage, then you craft after that by doing that. Boom, you have it. And it is very deterministic, sorry. So you can see that I easily got the raw damage out of it by only using 4 slom lines. And you can do that on every piece of gear if you want to. It can get you quite far, especially if you're struggling to get the stat you want. For example, life regeneration in the beginning is very nice to have, as well as mana regeneration on gear. As you can see on my ring right here, I have 100 flat mana regeneration, and that helps me quite a lot through the game. And as for the Vertimum, Vertivum, I'm not sure how you say that last boss name of Act 2, is way easier and actually dies quite quickly, as you see in the clip right here. At this point your character should be able to handle most things in the campaign just by passively leveling up your character as well as your Reaper, as it grants you a lot of flat damage and a lot of life and mana and regen. The last boss of Act 3 is the Evil Twin. He is no problem at all and gets down pretty easily. As for Act 4's last boss, the Scarecrow, he's a bit more tough and annoying to deal with, and if you don't know what to do about him, you gotta pick up the pumpkins on the ground so you can actually deal damage to him. If you don't pick up the pumpkins, you cannot deal damage to him, essentially. So he's more annoying than scary in my opinion, as long as you have some regeneration to actually recover from getting hit by his crows. Act 5, the Traitor, is the last boss before the endgame starts, and to be completely honest, I'm not sure what he does before he dies, except for doing some laser stuff. So yeah, the build is doing quite well for the campaign, and it should get you very easily through this boss fight without any problems. After you have defeated the Traitor and completed the whole campaign, you have unlocked more Ancestral stones, and what I can recommend is going up in these nodes right here. This is only for traveling, and then you equip the other raw boost on the tree, which grants a lot of more raw damage to buff your character. As you can see right here, goes all the way up to 35% and 165 flat. Now that you're in the endgame, you can now choose between 3 different endgame game modes. As for starters, you should start out with the battlefield and just take either RAV 0 or RAV 1. Doesn't really matter which one you take. The experience gain from RAV 1 is not really that big of a deal, so taking 0 is definitely fine for now. And when you do that, you find something called Elder Slorm. Elder Slorm is used to activate floors on the Slorm Temple, as well as in the Great Forge, as you can see here. It costs more and more the higher you get into the difficulty of it, as you can see here. It costs more and more the higher you go in difficulty. And the same goes for the Slorm Temple. The Slorm Temple is used to unlock something called ultimatums. The first one you get is this one right here, the Ultimatum Infinite Wisdom. This one grants you a bit of experience, which can be great in the beginning, so you can actually boost your experience by a tiny bit. And it's also part of one of the quest lines that you need to unlock another Ancestral Stone. As you can see here, reach level 50 of influence. That's just by doing battlefields and then defeating a lot of floors. Defeat battlefield bosses. You have to kill 15 battlefield bosses. You have to reach level 50, get a Slum Reaper to level 50, reinforce an item to level 6. I can show you what that means by going down here. With this guy right here, the Slomologist, you can see that this item has a plus sign on it, and if you put it into this window right here, go into your crafting material and put in a Greater Slorm Light chunk, for example, you can then upgrade it to get even better stats, as you can see right here. Now it got reinforced, and then it starts from scratch, from 0, where you have to build up the potential to actually craft another reinforcement level onto it. The other things you gotta do is do the Great Forge, where you can unlock runes. The runes are able to grant you some pretty powerful passive buffs on your Reaper, as you can see right here. The one I only have unlocked right now is the most powerful rune, which grants you a Reaper damage multiplier for 14 seconds. And the way it activates right now, for me at least, is after spending some time in combat. This can be great to further push your build to the limits, and it's also part of the quest line to unlock the next Ancestral Stone right here. You can see upgrade a Reaper rune to level 3, and you do that by taking the Great Forge. And the same goes for the Slorm Temple. You unlock some pure Elder Slorm, I think it's called. And you can then spend that on your ultimatum to grant it higher levels. Right now I have the Infinite Wisdom at level 5. You only need it at level 3 to unlock this quest line. And I think that's about it for this quest line. And I think this next Ancestral Stone is self-explanatory. It says what you have to do. You gotta take your character to the floor 50 in the Slorm Temple, do 100 wave in a row on Wrath 3 in the Great Forge. This can be quite challenging. I cannot recommend doing that right off the bat, so keep that in mind. The next thing is Adam Nostros himself. This boss is actually quite tough, and you need to invest a lot more time into your character before you can actually defeat him. He's quite a tough one. It's definitely the hardest boss in the game so far. And you gotta reach level 75, that takes a long time. And you gotta find a lot of Reaper runes in the Great Forge. And you do that by killing the Forge Leader over and over. You can find him as early as wave 10, maybe 20, depending on how lucky you are. The last thing I want to go over is that at around level 50 on my character, I wanted to get something that was a bit faster to play. So I swapped from the Architect of Death into the Sharpshooter of the Wild, and I equipped some gear that actually managed me to do that, because you can craft on, for example, +2 levels of tumble, as well as every other piece of gear. You can get that through these right here, the Slorman right of aptitude. I'm not sure how that's how you pronounce it, but with these you can actually craft mastery bonuses onto your gear, and then you can actually easily equip all the upgrades that you want to equip. Remember, you can always spec out of your previous specialization, so you actually get some more points out of it that you can use on the other one. And for the Sharpshooter, I went with the Assassin's Momentum, grants you a lot of movement speed when you use Tumble, just like this. You get way faster, it's very smooth. I take this one because we have Tumble do a thing where you can actually shoot out arrow shot when you use Tumble, and then it shoots out arrow shot, and then you apply a negative effect, which is poison. So you can actually deal more damage to them. The next thing is whenever you cast Tumble, your next skills cost no mana during Assassin's Haste. This is very important because there's a note down here that makes your mana cost 4 times as large. And the next row is not that important. The next one was the one I told you before, where Tumble shoots out arrow shot, which grants you poison on hit, as you can see right here if you equip this. And the next thing you gotta do is take rapid shot, get more projectile speed. Next row, galvanized in torment. This is a multiplier, so you get a 20% multiplier in movement speed when you are tormented. This is very important because there's a ability that I want to use that are synergizing very well with torment. And the last pointer is this one right here, Superior Endless Quiver. This makes you able to shoot 2 additional projectiles, and while you're tormented, you shoot another additional 3 projectiles. But your mana cost on arrow shot, void arrow, and heavy explosive projectile gets quadrupled in mana cost. But because of this node right here, giving up on hope, you don't have any mana cost during Assassin's Haste. And that's when you cast your mobility skill while tormented, like this. Then you can just shoot as much as you like without having any mana cost during the Assassin's Haste. Very powerful. The ability I wanted to use was Void Arrow. And the reason for that is because it has a lot of damage potential. And what I went with was, to start out with, was Pierced by the Void. This makes your arrows rebound 100% chance if you're fully charged with the arrow. You can see, let's do like this. Normally you gotta charge it up like this, but there's a note down right here, Torment of the Void. While tormented, your Void arrow charges instantly instead. So you can actually do this and shoot it instantaneous. And this is very, very powerful because it has a big multiplier and a high base damage. So what we take is this one right here in Almighty Void. Instead of shooting 3 arrows, you shoot 5. You already get 5 additional from here as well. So you're essentially shooting out 11 arrows. No, that's wrong. I think, yeah, 10 arrows. 10 arrows. My bad. Next on the line is going to be Wormhole of the Void. Now, Void Arrow applies Wormhole, and that does so that enemies affected by a Wormhole takes increased damage by 25%. This is a multiplier. Very nice. And a very, very powerful node right here is called Legacy of the Void. This means that when you kill an enemy affected by Wormhole, the closest non-boss enemy is instantly absorbed into oblivion. This means they pretty much get absorbed to nothingness. And this works even on elite enemies, it works on obelisks as well. So even if you're fighting a elite enemy with like tens of millions of life, you can just instantly absorb them and get on with your life, essentially. It's a very powerful mechanic and very busted, in my opinion, and very satisfying, as you will see in a few clips right now. That pretty much wraps up the video. And if you have any questions about the build or your character that you're currently playing, let me know. I will try to answer your question as easily as possible in a great way. Yeah, so any questions, I will try to answer them as greatly as possible. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was a helpful video, and I will see you in the next one.